Woo! Hello everybody, welcome to Liberebil. Today we're in Audi's new S5 Sportback, which comes in at 1.1 million rand. As tested though, this one that we're in today is 1.3 million because it does have quite a few extras on it. I can't get enough of that V6 noise. Anyway, what is the S5 Sportback like to drive? Let's start with the nitty-gritty, the boring stuff on everyday roads as a daily driver. Well, we are on quite a bumpy and twisty section of road at the moment, so it's a good representation of what a Cape Town road is. So it's going to be a good test for this car. So we can start off by saying that this car has Audi's S Sport suspension fitted. Now, it isn't really adaptive dampening in the sense that it's got air suspension. It doesn't, but it does have that steel sprung kind of adaptive dampening to it. So that means that over the bumps, it does actually feel a little bit more dampened than most cars would, but not necessarily as dampened as that of the S6 that we tested a while ago. That had like the fully fledged air suspension in it. So that was literally like driving a cloud. You kind of just float over everything. You never feel a crease or bump in the road. That being said, the S Sport suspension being slightly firmer than standard does definitely help it in the corners, which we'll find out about pretty shortly. So fuel economy wise, Audi claim 8.8 liters per 100 kilometers. I got about 9-ish liters per 100 k's when I was trying to be quite efficient, but at the end of the day, this is a V6. You're not going to get 5 liters per 100 k's out of it, so just forget it. It's a V6 that pushes out 260 kilowatts and 500 newton meters of torque, which means it can go from 0 to 100 in under 5 seconds. Whew! Listen to that V6 though. When you get it just right and it goes boom into the next gear, it's just satisfaction. Like you don't want to save petrol, man. Just listen to that. Boom. In Europe though, you can get the diesel variant of the S5, which will be a little bit more economical, I'm guessing. But yeah, this is the engine that South Africans apparently want, and this is the engine that South Africans got. And I'm not disappointed. I'm sure there's some clever electronic piping that's going on that's feeding me noise that isn't actually all produced by the engine. Maybe I'm wrong, but whatever it is, I'm here for it. In terms of drive modes, you've got efficiency, auto, dynamic, and comfort. I spend most of my time in the last option, individual, because that way you can leave the engine in pronounced mode so that it sounds a lot better out these tailpipes, but at the same time the engine is a little bit more efficient. Oh, that V6 noise though. I don't know guys, V6 or V8, this is definitely, although it's very subdued exhaust, a strong case for the V6. There's something about that like high-pitched hum, that it's so gentlemanly. Anyway, let's put it into dynamic and see what we can do around these corners. It is raining today, so I'm not going to push it, but we're in the right car. We're not in a high-powered rear-wheel drive. We're in an Audi, and Audi is synonymous with Quattro, and Quattro is synonymous with safety. Oh, these are proper wet roads. Okay, let's see what we do around this little hairpin. Whew! It just makes quick work of it. It makes me feel like I'm a better driver than I am at times, actually. So this is the more modern version of Quattro. which means that it can send 85% of the total engine torque to the rear wheels, which means that you don't often get much understeer unless you're at the complete limit. It just helps you rotate out of corners a little bit more, and to be honest, makes it feel a little bit more fun than other Audis that I've driven in the past. Yo, this thing is unbelievably capable. So to balance all of that out, I know I got a bit excited there. I'm a simple dude that got let loose on a couple of corners with a V6. Sorry, let me be a bit more objective here. So transmission wise, we've got a torque converter. We do not have the dual clutch. This is a ZF transmission. So 7-speed auto. And it does pretty well on everyday driving. The gear changes are smooth. It's also really good at sporty driving. It kind of kicks you into the next gear, and the gear changes are quite sharp. But one thing I have noticed is that when you are in anything other than dynamic mode, where the gearbox is in sports, it does have a tendency to pull off in second gear. Now that irritates me because in this car there is noticeable turbo lag, and that just is perpetuated by the fact that it wants to pull off in a longer gear ratio. It wants to kind of, and you're like, oh, there we're going. So you get that kind of elastic feel when you pull off. Most people won't mind this, but I get a little bit perturbed by it, because if I'm at a traffic light turning right and there's a gap and I have to go now, I want to go now. I don't want to kind of pull off like a snail and then, oh, there we're going now. So from the outside, I think the S5 looks pretty spectacular. Niaz is going to disagree with me. I quite frankly do not care. I think they found a really good balance here, because you've obviously got the A5 line where it starts, and then obviously at the top you've got the RS5. Now they need to differentiate that. So in order to do so, they're not actually allowed to make the S5 look as aggressive and as exciting as the RS models. There needs to be a clear, distinct difference. That being said, I still think that, especially from the front, this car looks pretty menacing. It looks quite mean, despite its subtle, subdued, general undertone that this car carries. You will notice, compared to the previous model, that this grille is a bit wider. It also sits a little bit closer to the ground, and there are some new curves and lines that have been fitted in there. Then, on the side of the car, you'll notice the contours and the lines. Now, this makes it look like it's got quite a menacing stance. Now, I'm not talking stance as in Toyota Tazz that's been dropped to the ground and sits on BBS with stretched tires. I'm talking stance as in like sports muscle kind of, I think these lines also work really well with the color of the car, which is called Navara Blue Metallic. Now, the next thing you'll notice is the Audi Sport rims. These are 20-inch alloys, and they definitely set it apart from your standard A5. It also brings it a little bit closer to the RS model, because you do have those red calipers and they can be clearly seen through these rims. Then moving on to the back of the car, you've got the 4 tailpipes, and you guys should know by now that if you see 4 circle pipes, it's an S model. If you see the 2 big oval pipes, then it's an RS model. If you didn't know, now you know. Next thing you'll notice is the black diffuser. Now this is actually part of the black styling package, which is an optional extra from Audi. Otherwise, I think it's chrome as standard. Then moving on to the boot, it is 465 liters of boot space. And some SUVs don't even have this much boot space, so this is quite generous. You'll be able to put pretty much everything in the back and then have the rest of the cabin for the occupants of the vehicle, rather than have things at people's feet in this car. So moving on to the interior of the Audi, I say this with all Audis, but this is genuinely quite a nice place to be. You've got this Alcantara finish on the door panels. You've got this kind of brushed chrome finish on the dashboard and some other places in the car, just to break up that monotony of having a plain black cabin. You've got a bunch of tech here, seat memory settings. These seats are, well, you can see the quilted leather, the S badge. but underneath that is where it actually counts. It's got massage seats from standard, and then as an optional extra, this one's also fitted with heated seats. They are extremely comfortable, and this one is electronically adjustable, so you'll definitely find a seating position that works for you. Then onto the steering wheel, a nice touch is you have this perforated leather, which matches the perforated leather on the gear knob. Then, in terms of the center console, we've got one USB charging port over here, 12-volt charging socket, that's your start-stop button, 2 cup holders. Then we've got this nice little compartment that closes up there, where you can put your key and a couple of other little loose objects. A nice coin slot over there. A wireless charging dock, which is an optional extra. I think it's about 7,600 Rand from Audi. So the optional extras in this car are fairly expensive, so you just need to pick and choose what you deem necessary for your ride. That being said, the optional extras list is really extensive, so you're going to find a match that works for you regardless. Then obviously you've got your generic storage space in both door panels. There isn't actually a slot for a bottle, but you've got the cup holders that we talked about. Cubby hole is really nicely padded inside, feels quite premium. Dashboard also has a soft touch material rather than hard plastic. Obviously it's an Audi. Then up front we've got Audi's MMI unit. Now this car specifically is fitted with Audi's technology package, which is an optional extra. Gives you a couple extra features that integrate into the MMI unit. So you get Audi's Connect feature. You also get some contour lighting around the car, which you can change the color of to suit your needs. This is still the older lighting system. Audi's just introduced, I went on the Q2 launch and they've introduced this contour lighting where you can kind of see it through the surfaces and finishes of the car. It's really cool. So I can't wait for hopefully the next S5 has it. But honestly, it's still got interior lighting, nothing to complain about. Then down here, you'll notice a Bang & Olufsen speaker. Now this car is fitted with the 19 speaker system from Bang & Olufsen. Really clear sound. For this B&O sound system though, you don't have that many options in the menu. So for someone like me, I'm still satisfied. I just want bass, treble, mid, that sort of thing. Niaz wants a whole lot of EQ settings and that sort of thing. So this wouldn't satisfy an audiophile like Niaz, I don't think. But for me, I'm a simple dude from Claremont. Give me a B&O system, let me turn the bass slightly higher, and I'm happy. So something that similar shaped cars suffer from is rear passenger headroom. Now, rear passengers in the S5 Sportback will be happy to know that it isn't actually that bad. You can put normal sized people in the back and have them sit up almost completely straight. Rear legroom does suffer a little bit because of these big beefy front seats, but that being said, it is still acceptable. So it's not by any means cramped in the back. The rear bench is also very comfortable, and then you've got independent aircon controls at the back and 2 USB charging ports. You've also got an armrest with cup holders that fold in and out pretty cleverly. So this specific unit is actually tricked out with what Audi call dynamic steering, and what that does is at lower speeds it saturates the steering, so you'll find it a lot easier to park the car, maneuver it around tight spaces, and at higher speeds what it does is unsaturate the wheel, meaning that you have to give a little bit more input to kind of get the same net result. I won't say it adds any more engagement to the overall experience, because that feeling of where the tires are and the communication between the road, the tires, and then the steering wheel is still not there. But what it does lend to is a more controllable vehicle. Ultimately a safer one that you can drive a little bit faster and more exuberantly. But if you want something more engaging, then make sure you get the one with the RS badge on the back. So then in conclusion, we've obviously got from BMW side the M440i, and then from Merc we've got the C43. So if anybody has driven any of those cars, then let us know what you think about them in comparison to this in the comment section below. I haven't actually driven the M440i, but I have driven the C43. From what I can remember is it's more brash, it's louder, it's slightly more exciting to drive, I'd say. But at the end of the day, if you have to compare this directly to that, I'd say that my money would still go to this because it is a more complete car. Yes, it's subdued. Yes, it feels a little bit more mature, which some of you might say boring, but I definitely don't think so. So if your mind is made up and you do in fact want an Audi, but you don't want an A5 because that's too subdued for you and you maybe can't necessarily afford the fully fledged RS5, then I think that this is, in my humble opinion, quite a good alternative. Yes, it lacks slightly in the driver engagement aspect, but in most other aspects, it is quite solid. The handling is good, the practicality is good, the sound system is decent. It's just a good all-rounder. Anyway guys, that was my time with the Audi S5. If you enjoyed the video, please do give a thumbs up. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Do hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. And as always, if you really like the video, please do share it with your friends and family. We would really appreciate it here at Liberebil. Otherwise, be free, be you. Liberebil out.